Hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Marta and I'm part of the university's sustainability team. Our team within the university share the best practice, support behavior change, and ultimately just help the university in reducing its energy use, carbon emissions, and waste. We provide a focus on the environmental impacts to support a balanced approach to the decision making as well. Our aim is for a generally more sustainable university, and we want to support its commitments to improving outcomes for people, communities, and the economy, and for the environment through everything we do. As part of that, every year we organize a series of events called Go Green Salford, which aims to raise awareness of environmental issues and also give our university community a chance to engage with us and get involved. This event is part of this year's Go Green Salford, and we're joined by Josh Simpson, who is one of the founders of the Impact Score app. It allows us to get an insight into the way businesses we buy from impact our society and our planet. He's here to tell us all about the Impact Score, about why and how it came about, and how we can use it to become more informed consumers. The talk is being recorded and it will be shared with everyone after the events. Please keep your microphones muted during the talk, and if you've got any questions, you can put them in the chat during the talk or you can ask them at the end. Thank you very much, and now we'll hear from Josh.
Thank you. I'll just try and share this. Give me a second. Where is it? Oh, 1 second.
No worries.
One second, I just can't find it. Give me 30 seconds. Before this.
Yeah, if you need any help, let me know. I can share it for you as well.
No problem. Yeah, for some reason it's not showing up the PowerPoint. Are you all right to share your version of it?
Yeah, sure. Just let me open it and I'll put it up.
I'm not sure why it's not letting me. I did try just before, and oh well, shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, just bear with me 1 second because I can't see it on mine either. I'll do it once again. But yeah, it was fine just a moment ago, so until get it to work.
No, it's not giving me the option. I suppose what I could do, I could just share the second screen and drag the thing across, so you should be able to start to see this now.
Okay, wonderful.
And if I present that, can you see the full screen version there?
Oh yes.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know why it wasn't letting me share PowerPoint, but that'll do. Brilliant. Okay, sorry about the delay on the start of that. As Martha said, I'm Josh Simpson. I'm a co-founder at Impact Score. So I'm hopefully going to talk, well, I was going to talk for 15, 20 minutes. I'll try and keep that on the more 15-minute side of that now. I'm just going to talk about what we do at Impact Score, the challenge that we've tried to address, and how you could help us in addressing that challenge. So I'll just spend a minute talking about the inception of Impact Score. So as all good ideas do, it started in the pub. I was working at a pub at university, and at the end of a shift, I was chatting to one of my co-workers, and in the news that week, there'd been the big story about Starbucks. They'd had one of their best years on record, and they had paid 0 in UK corporation tax. So the guy I was working with said to me, wouldn't it be great if we could just search your website and find which companies pay what tax? So I was doing web design at the time. So we spent a good 6 months trying to work this out between us. Thought it was a good idea, wanted to know about it, but the data was either not available to us or very expensive. And the upkeep of the website was starting to cost us, and it was time pressures. So we put it on the back burner. Then a couple of years later, I started working in doing data systems for a company based on the Wirral. And we were on the road back from Manchester to the Wirral, and we were just chatting in the car, And the managing director who was driving the car kind of picked the idea up a little bit and said, it's a great idea, but let's expand on it. Can't we do more things around sustainability to get more information about companies to the people that want it? So the idea kind of took off again, and this is where Impact Score started. So what we did then was we started to look at the market, do a bit of market research, or more accurately piggybacked off the others that had done the market research. So this is a stat we like to show. It comes from Kantar, who are a massive company that you've never heard of probably, but they're a British market research company. They've got 30,000 employees globally, so they know what they're doing, and they like to know the ins and outs of what people think about certain bits and bobs of information. And this stat comes from their sustainability report. And it said that of the people that they asked, 92% want to live a more sustainable lifestyle. They left the definition of sustainable lifestyle up to the individuals, so there could be some variation there. But to contrast it, they also found that only 16% of people are actively changing their behaviour. So there's a big gap between what people want and what people are themselves currently already doing. And there's a few reasons for that that we kind of thought of. One of them is that it's difficult. Making that change isn't as easy as you might first think. But another one also came from the same piece of research, is that people believe that 76% of people believe that retailers and brands have an obligation to protect, conserve and benefit the environment. So what we took from this is that people want change to happen, but it should be led by the brands and by the businesses, and individual actions need to be amplified, and they need to make the change. The issue with that is that when businesses know that they're not being checked on, when no one's scrutinising them, they often don't necessarily tell all of the truth. And this came from this stat here, which is that 40% of green claims made online could be misleading. This comes from a report led by the Competition and Markets Authority. So we have a bit of an issue here. We've got a gap between what people want, what they're doing, and what people are expecting businesses to do. So this was the issue we had. We decided we were going to try and combat it. But before we just ran straight into it, we decided to look at what aspects of business behaviour do we want to change and that can have the widest impact if they did change. So I'm just going to list a few of them and go through them. So the biggest one for me personally was CO2 emissions. So if we're to achieve our target of reducing emissions by 78% by 2035, businesses are going to need to be a big part of that, and their behaviour is going to have to change. However, only 1 in 10 of them are currently assessing climate change risk as a priority. And if they don't change that behaviour, and there's only 1 in 10 assessing it as their main priority, the two aims aren't going to match up, and we're not going to be able to avoid the catastrophic effect of climate change. Another thing that we wanted to do when we're talking about change in business behaviour is we want them to pay their fair share of tax. So this is an estimate of £7 billion was avoided that didn't go into the UK Treasury, and that's avoidance, not evadance. Evadance. So this is legal avoidance, but nonetheless, that's £7 billion a year that we're not getting that we could have done and we could spend on other things. Just put that into perspective. A cohort at university, so 1 year across the whole country of university, will be paying £9 billion in tuition fees. So if you're ever wondering why you're paying £9,000 a term for tuition fees, perhaps if we dealt with the issue of companies paying their tax, we wouldn't have to. Another thing that we want to do is we want companies to change their behaviour in relation to the pay gap, want them to close it down. It's true that across their lifetime, women generally will earn more than £250,000 less than men, which is completely unacceptable. And if we could get the businesses to change their behaviour, that would benefit millions of women across the country. So that's one of our targets. Another one is the real living wage. So there's 5 million people that are paid less than what they need to live on. We use the Living Wage Foundation's figure of £9.50 outside of London and £10.85 within London to get an idea of that. But this is 5 million people that if businesses changed their behaviour and decided to pay their low paid workers more, that would affect their everyday lives. This is a little bit of a curveball. Some people don't see this one in the same vein often, but it's really important. We want to make sure that the big boys pay their small suppliers on time and quickly. So just to put this into a little bit of perspective again, the small medium enterprises, which is what that SME stand for, employ 60% of workers. And if they're not paid on time, or they have to wait 3 months after they provide a good or a service to get paid, that puts their whole ability to plan under some serious pressure. So if you're not able to get long-term contracts or your hours change weekly, this could be one of the reasons, because they're having to they're having to provide services without getting paid for months. So if we can change that, that could benefit 60% of the workforce, which would be absolutely fantastic. And the final thing that we want to look at is that the people in charge, the board, that they get paid, and it gets that payment balances out to how good they do or how bad they do. So it's no surprise to anyone that CEOs get paid a lot. CEOs can earn 300 times their average worker's wage, which is crazy. And that means that by January 4th, they've earned the same amount of money that their average worker will earn in a whole year. And the issue that we have with this is that it doesn't reflect how good or bad the company's doing. And that's not just on a performance level, that's also on a environmental or a social level as well. So it doesn't take into account those kind of things. And if we can change this and we can change the attitude within a boardroom, that's going to have an effect across our whole economy and is going to affect a load of people's lives. So I'm just going to give a couple of examples now. This is real life examples of those things that we just measured. So you will have heard in relation to tax that Amazon don't pay any, and it's true. But here's just to frame it a little bit more. We're going to compare it to B&M, similar size business in the UK. So this is Amazon UK, about 3 billion in revenue. However, Amazon only paid £6 million of tax, whereas B&M paid 49 million. The reason for this is perhaps self-explanatory, is that B&M have got a lot of bricks and mortar buildings and they find it difficult to transfer assets offshore, whereas Amazon don't. Their head offices are based all over the world in tax havens, and you'll find quite often when if you order anything off Amazon and you look at the invoice underneath, it'll say that this is from Amazon Luxembourg or something like that, and that's the reason why they're paying less tax. And if there's no pressure on them to pay more, then again, their incentive is to pay as little as possible. Obviously, a couple more examples. We've got people that have a gender pay gap. We've got Manchester City at the top of this list, and for explainable reasons, not just justifiable, but explainable, you can picture who the biggest paid people are in the organisation that Manchester City is. It's their players, it's their managers, it's all these big names that are getting paid hundreds of thousands of pounds every single week. So that kind of skews it a little bit. But what this does show is that the women aren't getting paid anywhere near the same amount. We've put Tesco up here. Actually, as an example of one of the better ones, 11% might seem like a bit of a it's still a bad pay gap, which it is, but the average is 15.5%. So considering the size of Tesco, it's not a bad thing that, well, it is a bad thing, but it's better than it could be that it's down at 11%. And this is probably again because a lot of their employees are on low paid employment. Things like floor workers in their shops or warehouse workers, that kind of thing, and that might offset a little bit of the difference of men in more highly paid jobs at the top. We've also put on there Monsoon, who own Accessorize. This is just a really good way of showing that the front end of what a company brands themselves as doesn't necessarily reflect in the back end. So Monsoon and Accessorize mainly sell towards women, particularly young women, and yet their management structure do not reflect at all those kind of values. And we've got HSBC on here because money talks, and obviously banks have a lot of it, and they have just as bad, if not worse, gender pay gaps as many other industries. So this will need to change. So that's the issue. We've outlined kind of where we come from, the issue we want to address, both in terms of how we'll engage with how we get information on an individual level, but also the challenges that we need to change within business. So what have we done? So we mentioned earlier on that we did a website, that the idea was to build a website that you could go to, but that was a little bit 2015. So we've built an app instead. So this app, it's free. It's available now. You can get it on iOS and Android. And I'm going to talk you through for the next minute or so the experience you might have as a user going through this, and then I'll explain how that is going to change business behavior in the long run. So you download the app off wherever you want. There's no login, no sign-ins or anything. So we don't track personal information. You don't have to tick a box letting us market to you or anything like that. And what you'll be greeted with is the first time you use the app is your preferences. And what we want you to do is go down and select what you care about, what you don't care about, and that helps us to tailor the experience of the app, and also, as we'll go on to explain a bit later, gives us more of an impact when we go and speak to businesses. So you'll go through, you'll set all of your individual preferences, and you'll click update, and then we'll generate a score for over 10,000 businesses. So the next thing that you'll get to is a search box. This is before this page, probably should have put it in. And you search for any company you want, and you'll click on their profile, and up will come the page you can see there. So for example, we've searched Next, we've clicked Next Retail, and up gets their page. Now the idea of this is that you can very quickly and with no barriers at all get to the information that you want. So very quickly you can see that they've got a score of 51 out of 100, and you can then make a decision about whether you want to buy from them or not. If you want to go to the next level of data, you can see we've got a very visual thing with the emojis at the bottom. You can see in the different categories how good or how poor they're performing. And then if you want to drill down even further, you can tap on any of those emojis and get the data that goes behind them. And again, make a more informed decision when you're buying. And I also just want to mention there's a toggle underneath the score, which is my score or public score. My score is based on those preferences that we put in the last slide. So these scores are all catered to you specifically, what kind of stuff you're interested in and what kind of things you want businesses to be changing. And then, so taking the example that we've got next, I wanted to buy something. Maybe I wanted to buy a piece of clothing, a hat, whatever it is. I found out that Next are kind of middle of the road. They're not really what I want to be doing. I like to deal with companies that have a score of 60 or more. So we click in the top left and we compare. And up comes a load of companies that sell similar products, have a similar level of availability as Next does. So I've set myself, I want to go to a company that has an impact score of higher than 60. You can see the scores there. Not too keen on the kind of products that Burberry sell, so I'm going to choose to go to Decathlon or to JD Sports or something. And that is essentially how you'll use the tool. It's designed to get rid of any borders, make it as easy as possible for you to get the information you want and act, and really puts the emphasis of change onto business. So how do we go from you using this really nice app through to businesses actually changing? Well, what we do is we track people's experiences and their journeys through the application. So we know the type of people that search for Next. We know the kind of things that they care about, the kind of things they don't. We know if they click compare from the next page and who they go to after that. And we create a suite of information that we can then go to businesses with. Now, businesses have got a legal mandate to generate profit for their shareholders. So that is always their first priority. So when we sit in front of businesses, we need to speak their language, and we need to convert what our preferences and how we want businesses to change into the language that they understand. So what we do is we say, well, you've got however many users, 1,000 users in the last couple of weeks or whatever, have clicked on your name. This is their preferences. This is the stuff they like and don't like, and this is how you're performing, overperforming or underperforming. And then we can also say, and they've then gone and seen your competitors that are doing the same, and they've gone and shopped there instead, which is a cost metric that people high up in a business can take seriously and can use it as a license to implement real change, because there's now a cost factor attributed to it. So the app is still in development, and there's a few more features that we've got. In the top right hand corner, you can see there's a button that says tell them, and this window will pop up when you click that. This button is going to be developed more to give you a direct channel between you and the business that you're looking at. But for now, what it lets you do is tells you, is the business good enough, or does it need to put more work, and is it not good enough yet? And we'll take that information, bundle it all up, put it with the other information I explained a little earlier, and we'll create an even more compelling case that we take to businesses about what kind of people are saying that you're not good enough. Even the people that say that they really like you, why are they saying that, and what kind of stuff are you doing well? And businesses find that really interesting, and again, it gives them license to change. So that's the application, and here's what you can do. You might have seen this coming. We want you to download the app. It's free. Just to reiterate that again, it's free. We don't take any information, and it's available now on iOS and Android. The more people that use the app, the better. It's when we go in and we have these conversations with businesses, it's better if there are more people using it. There's a larger sample size of people that are deciding to give us their preferences and shift between the different businesses. And again, that gives us more of an idea of which businesses really need to change and how we can put pressure on them to do that. So it'd be great if you could download the app. Just search Impact Score on the app stores and you'll find us easily. The other thing that you can do to really help us push this forward is joining the conversation. So you've got to see the social media platforms we're available on are on the screen now. We're at Impact Score app on Twitter and Impact Score app as well on the other different platforms you can see. So that's us. Happy to open up to some questions. I'm sure whoever circulated this presentation to you could also pass on our personal details if you would want. And we're happy to speak to anyone individually as well. But yeah, if there's any questions, ask away now and I'll hopefully get them answered quickly. Is that okay, Marta?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you very much, Josh. This was very interesting, and some of the figures that you shared are unbelievable already. Yeah, if anyone has got any questions, please ask them now. I know we have some in the chat already. Just wanted to mention that together with the recording from the session in the email via Eventbrite, I'll also send all of the information about Impact Score and where you can find them and how to contact them. So all of that will be sent to you. So in terms of questions, we've got one from Rebecca. She's asking, how do you go about obtaining the data that goes into the app?
So big question. It takes us quite a lot of time, but generally we have relationships with either third-party companies, such as the Real Living Wage Foundation that I mentioned earlier, that provide us data, or we go directly through government, and it's data that's mandated that companies has to present, but they don't have to make it usable. So that's where we come in, and we make it as usable as possible. So that's where we get it. It's from a range of different sources, and we're always looking at building that stack of data and making it covering more companies, as well as adding new measures and things like that. So yeah, that's where it comes from.
And in terms of how you choose companies which go on the app, do you choose that on the basis of sort of a survey when people tell you about what companies they want to see, or do people reach out to you, or do you base it more on the availability of the data?
So it starts with the availability of the data. We go and grab as many companies as we can, which at the moment is just north of 10,000. We're hoping to bump that up again pretty soon. Got plans to raise that to near 100,000 businesses, which is just about data collection and how we can do that. But then if there's companies that aren't on there that people are searching for, we get messages and we will go out and find that data as well. So there's a few different ways that we get it, but the companies that we don't get anyway, that people are interested in, we'll go out and manually search for, whether we have to go through people's reports or whether we actually get in touch with them ourselves. So that's how we build the data and how we choose the companies.
That sounds like a lot of work, but it's definitely.
we do try and automate it as much as possible. We've got a background in machine learning and AI and stuff, which makes this a little bit easier. But there is a lot of work that goes into creating these kind of data sets, and it's why it's not available, or it wasn't available before Impact Score came along.
I think Beck wants to question.
Hi, yeah, thanks for that. Apologies, my just as I was about to ask the question, my 6-year-old came running in. So I was just going to ask about, I think it sounds really great, and the information that we can get as consumers is really useful. It really does make you think and question some of your buying decisions. What sort of conversations have you had with companies? What sort of outcomes have you got? Have you got any examples of those?
Yeah, absolutely. We have. So as I say, we have quite a few conversations with people where we go out and try and petition them to change their behaviour. But this is kind of coming back to us naturally. Whenever you attach a score to a company, some companies like to challenge that. which is great. They come to us and they question us, and they really make sure that the data is right. And if it's not, they'll know about it, which helps us to build up our credentials and make sure that we're getting the right data out to everyone. Just yesterday, we had quite a large company come to us and challenge to say we're using data from a previous year, which funnily enough, we're about to update our data for the first time this year, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, which is why. But that's great. So that gives us an opportunity to interact with the businesses, and it shows that they're taking it seriously. They're looking at it and they're seeing the value. So yeah, we do get the conversation that we start where we're trying to chip away at people to get them to change. But as soon as you put scores and start comparing people, businesses definitely like to make sure that it's all correct and that they boast about it when they're beating their competitors. So yeah, that's the kind of conversation we've been having so far.
Yeah, it's great that they're looking to show progress as well.
Does he want to download the impact score? Has he got a phone?
Yeah, so I've got it downloaded and been having a look from the presentation. I went to one the other day through the AUC, so yeah, it's really useful. So just having a look and seeing what companies are on there, and what companies that family work for. It's just useful information to share that with them as well, to say, this is how your organisation's doing.
Yeah, we found a few angles that people find interesting. So we expected from a consumer point of view, but one of the things that we didn't really expect that we've got feedback on is people searching for the companies they work for. Then it kind of gives you license internally to have conversations that you wouldn't be able to have otherwise because you don't know the data. So that's a really positive thing that we weren't expecting to come out of it that has done, which is really great.
That's great.
And as you grow your user base and then the amount of data that you've got, do you have plans to also expand on the criteria that you include?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned it just briefly when it comes to the data that we're collecting. We split that into a few different categories. So we talk about our primary data, which is the data that you're legislated to say. So this is, you have to report your gender pay gap and things like that. Our next level is companies' third-party certification, like Real Living Wage. And then we also have plans to roll out some self-certification stuff. But again, we'll only incorporate the good data in the impact score. And we're constantly thinking about chopping and changing what data is going to be interesting to our users. And then we're also periodically, we go out and ask our users, is the stuff that we're not measuring that you want to know about? There's something's come up about slave labour is one of the things that we've got on our radar, and we're trying to work out how we can make that work. But again, whatever people kind of want and will find useful is we want to put it onto the application. It only benefits us, and if it lets us put more pressure onto these businesses and makes more people engaged, then we'll absolutely go after it. But yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much. Are there any more questions? Okay, I think we can close on that note. Thank you very much, Josh, once again for coming. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And like I said, the recording will be sent out within the next few days. And yeah, thank you very much once again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.